Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a powerful and pretty accessible Open Ultra League team that features 0XL Pokemon that helped a trainer get to number 57 in the world on the global leaderboards. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Jody Enga, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now the team features a Virizion on the lead, Shadow Hippowdon on the safe switch, and Aurorus as the closer, so you do not need any XL Pokemon whatsoever to build this team. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at the team in action in the Open Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrific lead, Virizion into Shadow Golurk. Opponent safe switches into Shadow Drapion, and that's going to be met with the star of the show, Shadow Hippowdon. Aqua Tail will be hitting for super effective damage, but Hippowdon consistently applies massive fast move pressure with Sand Attack. Now this opponent could possibly be running the team that I used to hit number 6 in the world, and if so, there's a Miltank in the back, and if that's the case, then the opponent here unfortunately is going to be in for a very tough day, as Virizion is very difficult to deal with for that team. We're going to see a shield of the Aqua Tail. It is a CMP tie, going to fire off that Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands picks up the knockout, in comes the Golurk, and we see Jody actually making that read, saying that this is going to be the team with Miltank in the back. I'm going to aggressively switch in Virizion because that team does not have a very strong check to Virizion. Golurk is going to fire off its energy here, going for Dynamic Punch. That does big damage. We're going to see waiting the turn to avoid the catch as in comes Licky Licky. Great patience there, and now Sacred Sword connects. So, not quite the Miltank team. Opponent is running Licky Licky, but a very similar team construction. So, Virizion is extremely strong. Virizion winning the CMP tie over that Licky Licky, and now you can just bring in Aurorus, and Aurorus is going to be in a terrific spot. Even if it's the Earthquake, non-same type attack bonus Earthquake will not KO. Licky Licky goes for a body slam, in comes Golurk. Golurk to be met with a ton of energy from Aurorus. Weather Ball lands, there's more where that came from. This will be able to pick up the knockout, and the Licky Licky, it's just too little too late here, as there's still 3 Pokemon left alive for Jody. We will see what their second move is. It's Shadow Ball, that's not going to do enough damage, and game 1 ends in victory. Next match, seeing a much worse lead, Virizion into Giratina. Immediate safe switch to the Shadow Hippowdon. It's a Dragon Breath Giratina, as most Giratinas are if they're being played at the moment. And the Giratina stays in to get some chip with Dragon Claw, and in comes Miltank. Miltank, of course, can hit for super effective damage with Ice Beam, but the fast move rollout not going to be doing a whole lot here. Miltank farming up quite a lot of energy, actually overfarms past the Ice Beam, and this is going to allow Hippowdon to land a Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands does quite a lot of damage. There's a lot of energy on this Miltank. We are going to see the shield from the Hippowdon. It is going to be the Ice Beam, and there's another Ice Beam all ready to go. Rollout has terrific energy generation. We're going to see the shield from Hippowdon. Hippowdon has so much energy, going for a bait here. Weather Ball Rock would not be enough to knock out. The Weather Ball does get shielded. This should just be a Body Slam from the Miltank, and Body Slam will not be enough to KO. That's Hippowdon withstanding the damage, making the Scorching Sands, flipping switch advantage in the 2 shield, and now Giratina goes from one of its best matchups to one of its worst. In the back is Licky Licky. It's a double rollout team, and the opponent will concede the match. Picking up a better lead in the next match, Virizion versus Pangoro. Pangoro has lightning fast pacing, getting to close combat every 10 turns, but Virizion with the 9-turn pacing to Sacred Sword is a rare Pokemon that can actually outspeed it. Pangoro builds up to a Night Slash plus a close combat. No fear from Jody here, calling the bait. What a beautiful bait call, but unfortunately Pangoro immediately boosts its attack by 2 stages. That's a 10% chance. And even if you're in a situation where you typically have a good lead, a Pokemon boosting can drastically change the outcome. Close combat shielded, Pangoro winning charge attack priority there, and Virizion is going to have to give up the final shield. So Virizion is going to win lead, still have a decent amount of health left, but all shields are down in the match. In comes Feraligatr, and this will be trouble for the backline. Virizion does get to the Leaf Blade, barely outpacing, but a Leaf Blade does not KO here. That is going to be survived. We're going to see a switch out into Hippowdon, basically just sacrificing the Hippowdon and trusting that Aurorus can sweep. In the back, the opponent has a Hippowdon of their own, but they're not running the Shadow Hippowdon. They're running the regular. So the opponent will have extra bulk, but that is a trade in exchange for a lot less damage. Honestly, you can probably just bring in the Virizion just to force energy here, because Virizion, being the grass fighter, is going to be a complete wall to energy. Opponent goes for the Scorching Sands, and they try for the farm down, but that's the difference. The non-Shadow Hippowdon just does not have the damage output that it would like. In comes Aurorus. Aurorus going to get hit with super effective damage here from the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands will connect the switch to the Feraligatr, but Feraligatr does not have the energy needed to outpace Aurorus. Weather Ball picks up the KO. All that's left in the back is Hippowdon, and Aurorus will get that farm down and secure a very close win. Hopping into the next match, leading Virizion into Shadow Feraligatr. This is so good considering the backline. Opponent is going to save switch into Shadow Drapion. Shadow Drapion is typically running Aqua Tail plus Crunch, which means that the Drapion would actually be walled by the Virizion. But instead choosing to switch out of the Virizion and instead bring in Aurorus. Aurorus is going to be hit with, oh my goodness, this is a rare Drapion that is not running Aqua Tail. I haven't seen a non-Aqua Tail Drapion in ages, but here it is. And that's actually very nice for the Aurorus, as Aurorus is only taking neutral damage. It gets a farm down. It can probably land a Meteor Beam on the Feraligatr when the Feraligatr gets brought in here. And even though this is neutral damage, Aurorus hits like a truck, so it's actually able to grab the shield from the Feraligatr. Feraligatr gets a healthy farm down. This is going to be a boosted Weather Ball. Not going to do a ton of damage to the Feraligatr, but at this point, all chip damage is helpful. Slight inaccuracy and timing there from the opponent as they throw after 2 Shadow Claws instead of 1, but it's the Ice Beam that is a massive shield. Opponent is going to get a nice switch out and a catch as they're able to catch the Leap Blade onto Galarian Moltres. Moltres answered with Hippowdon. Hippowdon, this could be a bit interesting, as the Moltres, of course, is stuck between debuffing themselves with the hard-hitting Brave Bird or throwing an Ancient Power, which doesn't debuff themselves, but basically does no damage since it is resisted. The Weather Ball is going to land. Moltres farming up right around 100 energy. Going to call the bait here. It's the Brave Bird. Brave Bird, devastating damage. Back in comes Virizion. Virizion gonna look for a farm down, trying to exit with energy. Moltres gonna bait with the Ancient Power. In comes Feraligatr. Is this going to be the Ice Beam? If it is, it's game over. It's the Hydro Cannon. They did not have the energy needed, and now Virizion will be able to win this game. Virizion Leap Blade picks up the knockout. In comes the Moltres. Moltres is very powerful, but it does not get the charge attacks very quickly. Sacred Sword knocks out the Moltres. That game got a bit scary, but it does end in victory. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Virizion versus Drapion. Drapion, as I mentioned, last battle, more of the exception rather than the rule. And that last battle, we did actually see a Crunch Sludge Bomb Drapion. Almost every Drapion is probably going to be on the Aqua Tail Crunch, and we do see they go for the Crunch there. We do see a debuff. If they're staying in with a moveset that's walled, they're probably core broken by the Virizion. So I love this switch out here by Jody. Jody understanding that if they're staying in, they're core broken, could be a water in the back, and I need to bait out waters. So I'm going to switch into the Hippowdon, able to successfully get the Scorching Sands debuff. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow another Weather Ball. Instead, all it really does is just give the Feraligatr more farm. Back in comes Virizion, and Virizion will be able to fire off the Leap Blade and secure the knockout if they let it go. Opponent actually ends up shielding. This is a debuff to Ice Beam. Virizion is going to let it go. Ice Beam leaves it on 1 HP. We're going to see a simultaneous switch out Aurorus into the Shadow Drapion. Oh, sorry, the non-Shadow Drapion. I am mistaken. Aqua Tail is going to connect. That, of course, hitting for super effective damage. Aurorus is going to be committing the shield on Aqua Tail number 2. Aurorus going to go for a Meteor Beam, not trusting the Weather Ball to pick up the knockout. Meteor Beam, of course, will be able to boost up the attack of the Aurorus, as Aurorus can potentially look to try and farm down Feraligatr as it re-enters the field. Back in comes Feraligatr, not going to trust in the farm down, instead just going for the Weather Ball. Weather Ball shielded up by the Feraligatr. Feraligatr continues to farm, and this could be a little bit tough for the opponent if they're weak to Aurorus in the back. We're going to see the switch and the catch. Beautifully done. Erasing that energy with a catch onto Virizion. In the back is Drifblim, and Drifblim will be taking massive super effective damage. Weather Ball is going to connect. Drifblim is very bulky, however. Can Drifblim actually take this game? Weather Ball after Weather Ball is going to connect. Drifblim gets farmed down, unable to make a potential Mystical Fire. And Aurorus is going to get the end game sweep, set up perfectly by Hippowdon baiting out that Feraligatr and debuffing it. And then, my goodness, Aurorus went absolutely crazy in the back. Lost lead in the next match, leading the Virizion into XL Malamar. XL Malamar is almost always paired up with poison types, so you'll oftentimes see it paired with something like a Drapion, so that could be why the opponent is staying in here. We're going to see the Scorching Sands land. That does significant damage to the Malamar. Malamar firing off more energy. Hippowdon's already shielded once, not going to shield twice, as the foul play is going to land. Hippowdon with a very nice overfarm, going for the Weather Ball, looking to secure the knockout onto the Malamar. Weather Ball is going to connect. Malamar barely able to hang on. In comes Weezing, so we do see one of the poison types. Weezing to be hit with the Scorching Sands. Weezing says no. We're going to see a switch out as the switch clock is available, and in comes Aurorus. Even if it is an overheat, this is survivable. It's only neutral damage. It is going to be a play rough from the Weezing. This is actually the Shadow Weezing as well, so it's going to have quite a lot of damage output. Brutal Swing is going to connect, and my goodness, that Aurorus' health disappeared in the blink of an eye. Meteor Beam is going to connect, and down goes Weezing. I expect we will see the third here. It's probably going to be a Drapion, and there is the Drapion right on cue. Drapion going to have a pretty terrible time trying to Poison Sting down a rock type. Weather Ball is going to be shielded. Can Aurorus get to another move? Yes, it can, but the catch! No! The opponent with the perfect play, catching that Weather Ball. Aurorus is going to eventually get Poison Stung down, but he says one good catch deserves another with a beautiful catch of a Sludge Bomb. Oh my goodness, an actual Sludge Bomb Shadow Drapion. I have officially seen it all. I've been playing a lot of Ultra League, and I have not seen one of these Sludge Bomb Drapions, but apparently here they are in these sets. I don't think Virizion's getting the farm down. It needs the Sacred Sword, and it does get there. Winning by the narrowest of margins. Virizion barely clinging to its remaining HP as it takes the win. Virizion versus Shadow Drapion, and this is a pretty standard experience across the board in the current Open Ultra League. Drapion is everywhere. It is completely inescapable. In comes Greninja into the safe swap, and the Night Slash bait is shielded. Oh, that hurts. Weather Ball bait going to be shielded as well, making the Scorching Sands, but losing the CMP tie, and I don't think this is survivable. Hydro Cannon picks up the KO, and that is very rough. Greninja's not a Pokemon that is often run, except in double water teams. So my new worry is that it's going to be like a Feraligatr in the back, because if it's a Feraligatr in the back, then unfortunately Aurorus is not going to be able to sweep. But the hope is that this is the only water. You've successfully baited it out, and then Aurorus will be able to put in some serious work endgame. Virizion, so much energy, going to launch the Sacred Sword at the Drapion. 2 more Sacred Swords ready to go, but not before Drapion strikes first. Drapion goes for the Crunch. That Crunch is going to get this Virizion very, very low. Can it survive the Poison Sting? It can. The switch out, and unfortunately there is the Feraligatr in the back, and this should just be game over. There's basically just one win con at this point, which is just going straight for the Meteor Beam and hoping they no shield, but even that, I mean, the opponent's still in a good spot, and they call the bait! Oh no! Disaster strikes, and they will concede the match. Hopping into the final match, and it's the Dream Lead Virizion into Licky Licky. Opponent save switches into Malamar. Going to stay in with the Virizion. Look to get some chip damage here. Leaf Blade would do slightly more, but Sacred Sword's still going to inflict some nice damage. And in comes Shadow Hippowdon into the Malamar. Malamar is going to strike first, going for the foul play. Hippowdon able to withstand that damage and return fire with a hard-hitting Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands is going to connect. Malamar barely able to hang on. We did see an attack drop, so Malamar, this foul play will not KO. Hippowdon is now going to be met with an aggressive switch from the opponent back into Licky Licky. Licky Licky going to be hit with the Scorching Sands. Switch timer is up. In comes Virizion. Virizion more than happy to absorb what's either going to be a Body Slam or a Shadow Ball, and it will be the Shadow Ball from the Licky Licky. Virizion looking to double kick it into a range where a Sacred Sword will be lethal. Licky Licky is very bulky, so it may barely be able to hang on here, but it actually does not. The Sacred Sword perfectly KOs, and in the back is going to be a Shadow Drapion. Drapion going to take a lot of damage from the Sacred Sacred Swords, tanking the first, but the second one is going to command a shield. Opponent is going to use the shield Virizion, trying to make one final Sacred Sword, unable to get there. In comes Aurorus, and Aurorus is going to no shield, as the opponent will fire off a Crunch. Crunch does not get the debuff. They're farming up, they're going for another move, but again, this does not KO. Aurorus in no danger of being knocked out by fast moves. We are going to see the debuff here. Farming up a ton of energy, and there's the back-breaking catch onto the 1 HP Hippowdon. Don't do it to him. Oh my goodness, that is disrespectful. And now with the back-to-back Weather Balls, waiting the turn to not let the opponent catch. This game is over as Weather Ball KOs the Drapion. In comes Malamar. Malamar gets farmed down as well, and that's a win and a 2 shield flex as well. All in all, it was very cool to see a trainer use no XL Pokemon whatsoever and still be able to climb into the top 50 worldwide. I believe when they sent in the footage, they mentioned they were 57th in the world, but now I believe they got all the way up to 34th. So page 1 on the global leaderboards, using, in my view, a very accessible team. It does have a legendary, it does have a shadow Pokemon, but to me, those are a lot more accessible than trying to get a bunch of XL candies to level something up. So big congratulations to this trainer, showing that winning with non-XL Pokemon is definitely possible. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.